Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Men, the one and only show in the land that lights up your Wednesday night. Now, a couple of weeks ago, we had a bit of a rough-edged chat about women. Okay, all the time we're talking about women because women make our world go round as men. But we were talking about women being women's worst enemy. Now, a lot of you out there said, oh, but what do you know as men? How comes you don't have a woman there to tell us? So we listened to you, and we have... Rita, welcome to the show. Good to have you here. Thank you. We've talked a lot before you got on the show. Some people say you're a feminist. You say you're not. You say it's a journey. But I'm sure the gentlemen, especially the backbenchers over there, as they were called by somebody, I won't say who, would like to know. Very simple and straightforward question. Is a woman her own worst enemy?
In what context?
Generally. Do women bring other women down?
I'll say no. They are not their worst enemies. They are human beings like any other, like men. So the question would be, can men bring a man down? So it goes beyond to how society or people who view it, or when women have a disagreement, how you would want to look at it. But women have supported each other massively, massively. If you look in this country, who has worked so hard for women to be able to come to spaces like this?
It's the president.
You know,
he has elevated women.
No, the president found it on the journey. When you look at the Ugandan history, there are people like Rhoda Kalema who started the journey in 1960s before I was born. Even before then, 1945, one of my mentors, Dr. Thelma Wari, she was in this country long before independence, and people were working hard. The first person who brought, for instance, Mrs. Miriam Botti, when she staged a protest to her husband, actually, to come and speak to women at the State House in NTV. She was a woman, and they were fighting for a women's cause. So I wouldn't think women are their worst enemies. But like any other process of interaction, sometimes they do not agree. But when women do not agree, you call it a quarrel. When men do not agree with each other, you say, oh, they have just disagreed.
It's a discussion.
Yes. So it's all about how you name it. But it's just the same, how we can sit here, we're at a table to discuss, and I say no. Or you can say no. But how you name it in a stereotypical manner to bring its value less. Let me give you an example. You know this platform, WhatsApp, some family platform. There was this nice caricature of a kid telling the mom at school. The mom was talking to the teacher, and the kid was saying, Mommy, stop engaging in Urugambo. And then in brackets we are saying, Ruma Mungari, we need to go. Daddy doesn't engage in that, you're wasting time. So when one of my brothers in the family posted it, I said, oh, you see, a mother, when you go to the school system, it's the women, when they go, they take more time actually to know more, how has the child been in class. They want to know more what happens in class from the teacher, to have a little discussion. When you come as a father, I don't see all of them. Some just pick and go, they are busy. But because of how stereotypical when women act, they are belittled, mean, and they take even the intent out of it. They think it is Urugambo, they think it is rumor mongering. But while the mother is creating a relationship with the teacher.
I know that that was a caricature, but in real life, if your child told you that, wouldn't you massage their backside with a few whips?
No, I wouldn't.
What would you do?
I would actually take time to explain to her
that it's not Lugambo.
That it's not Lugambo.
How long would it take?
A conversation in the car as I go home. You know the things to talk to a child. It's not a pumping machine that you go there, put fuel and walk away. You hold a conversation.
Back in the day, if you told my mom that, you would not be alive that day. No, I mean, like, really.
Back in the day, right now in your family.
They'll be beaten into pulp and put it in a small bowl and kicked out of the window.
Can't believe that the child said that.
Over the years, that when you do that, you don't solve a problem. Because you don't provide an explanation and you do not help someone to learn and relearn. If you spank a child like that, in their mind they will still think actually it was Lugambo. So
it was Lugambo, but you're playing self-defense.
To break the cycle, you take time to explain what was the content, why were you trying to make effort to engage with the teacher.
I'll tell you what, I think that's a whole different discussion altogether.
Especially when the dad keeps saying that.
I come from the school of thought that, you know, it's not a discussion. And my daughter now is 20, but even she knows.
She's still 20?
Yeah.
For like 3 years. Every show.
Colin is keeping track.
I wonder why.
Waiting.
But you
When
see,
he wants to mature.
I believe that with children, there are rules, okay, and
Yeah.
they have to fit in, okay, because it's not a democracy. There's no Parent of the Year award, but that's a whole different discussion. Colin, you were about to say something.
So I wanted to sort of come off what you're saying and just sort of, if there is no democracy with children, how do you then have create a space? Because you see, again, I feel like this is Patriarchy Month, because last week we were talking about the patriarchy, we're back this week talking about the patriarchy, and I feel sad because I'm the one who has to bring it up, but sort of the patriarchal sort of system, and as Stefan calls it, the deep conditioning that society has gone through, means also that in a lot of cases, in a lot of families, women don't have discussions with men. It's not a discussion. You either align to what the head of house wants, or there's violence, there's sexual violence, there's economic temper,
Violence.
Economic violence, people withhold money from you. You work, 3-4 months to grow maize. The maize comes, someone comes, harvests it, sells it. You're still there. Your children haven't gone to school. Yes, it happens in a lot of homes, and I guess in my mind the question is then, where do you begin the dialogue? So there is some fact in what you say, that in certain cases women work actively to take other women down. So you're out there saying, let's end FGM, but it is mothers who are telling their daughters, my daughter has to be cut. You see, you're saying we must give girls a chance to grow in an environment free of sexual abuse, but it's mothers who are also saying, my daughter's breasts have to be ironed and flattened to protect her from abusers. You see? And when you come on the table, people who are smart, like myself, like some of these guys, they'll say to you, but women are also perpetrators of this system. But really, when you look at it, the women are conditioned into this system exactly the same way men are. So men are sort of raised to have the privilege and say, this is what I'm here to do. I'm not supposed to wash dishes, I don't go in the kitchen. The women are sort of, because the conditioning is happening at the same time, the men also the women are just like, okay, my daughter will wash and clean, and my sons won't do anything.
No, but then about that, don't you, again, that goes back to women. How many situations have, because I have witnessed it before, you go to, what do you call it, to visit, all right? You've finished eating, you want to take your plate to the kitchen, and somebody jumps up and says, no, I can't let you do that in front of you. You're my husband's visitor. And you're like,
but that is good hospitality. It's not the social condition. And you must stop the crumb work, Peter. People treat you nicely. So, which means at your home, even if no one says anything, you say, but I'm a leader of this house. I cannot take my plate to the sink.
No, that's what I'm saying. No, I do it. So I don't see what's wrong with doing it. It's not a woman's job.
About the simple things.
Peter,
simple
what
things
they
make
have
the
asked me
difference.
to do when I visit, most times actually, they ask me the same. Please, it's okay, I will clear the plate. Unless really, because why would you just say, it's okay, take it. You're my guest, and you deserve to be treated. A
Like
treat.
a guest.
Somebody you've invited, serve them.
Yeah.
Even what they say to you, please don't, I will carry it and take it to the sink. They also say it to me. But also depends, at this level, depending on where you want to go. For instance, we are in a process of learning and relearning. You call it societal conditioning. Very true, that's what it is, or socialization. Because you take years to learn. You learn the language people use, you will learn the acts, you will learn the gestures and everything. So you do not wake up and drop them. And that is how it ends, to start thinking women are their own worst enemies, and you blame the victim, because even when they iron those breasts, that is the best way they know how. But for those, yes, because she thinks that was the initiation. So if you have not, or she has not gotten a point of interaction to tell her, that's what I spend much of my time doing. When you're working with women, tell them it is okay, your son can cook. How does it feel? You have a son, but you're sick, the son cannot even help you. You have a son in the house, you go in the kitchen, this child you're bringing up cannot even be support you and contribute. Because you think he should not step in the kitchen. You are a mother.
No, I totally agree with you on that. But you know, I struggle with this particular, the way that this discussion has been framed. Part of what's been going on, and anyone who knows me really knows that I really speak for the girl child, and I believe in having equal opportunity for the boy child and the girl child. But in Uganda especially, for the last 30 years, there sort of has been an imbalance. And I even though this society has traditionally been patriarchal, in the real moving the levers in society, you don't necessarily find that the workplace, for example, is steeped with a male push. I think that the texture has changed. I think that my sisters, my cousins who are female and all, have a strong footing in the workplace, for example. Right? I am seeing less and less of a scenario where we say women have a problem, at least in the, if you're talking middle class, working class type of places. Now, the rural space is slightly different because it's about what factor controls the economy, and in the rural space, it's who owns the land that actually drives the conversation. And that's where it might be slightly different because the man generally owns the land because it's traditionally owned, then the woman is on a less, is on a weaker foot in some respects. But I don't generally think that women are in a problem, and that the problem, if at all it exists, has been perpetrated by women themselves. So I want us to situate this conversation.
I'll tell you what, I'd like to hear from Banji, because Banji, that's your field, you're a social worker. Women have been around forever, okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, they have.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
When you say forever, what do you mean? Like
Since
they arrived at
since creation, they came. Okay, if I may take the biblical.
This is the kind of language that demeans women. This.
No, I did. Okay,
Cram work living.
Banji. Okay, but you see, it's for the longest time, women have been considered to be on the back foot of men. Could it be simply because they are not united enough, all right, to drive their agenda? And that is why they will continue to be on the back foot.
Doomed if you say yes, doomed if you don't. You're cooked whichever way.
But I think there are certain fundamentals that really make it that point the fact that sometimes women are their very own enemies. And I want to point at a few instances. Now, in the drive for advocates and reformers to create space, sufficient space for women, we have put certain opportunities. And normally when you put opportunities, they are fast runners who go and capture them. And I think on Father's Day I said, some of the women have just closed the tap.
It's the women closing the tap.
Yes. Now a woman has control of a tap, and it's like climbing through a piped ladder, and there is a lid on the top. Once you reach the top, and you see the amount of women trying to climb to reach your position, you are like, no, let me close this one. So there are those instances. And the other point which I want to put forward, why I believe the women are their own worst enemies, is in the push, for equality, in the push, they have put so much demand that the man is failing to cope. So by the fact that the man is either failing or is slow in coping, they are creating problems for the man. And I think this is where the challenge is. And this one, it's not that they do it intentionally. They do it without knowing.
It's their nature.
No. Okay. It is a byproduct. They are pursuing something which is good, but as a negative consequence of that is that they are bringing some of these very difficult situations. So I still believe in some instances, yes. Now there's a question you asked. What was it?
Don't worry, just hang on to that. We'll get to it straight.
Hang on to what he has been talking. He's been talking for 5 minutes. What do you mean?
We are here at the Naguru Skies Hotel talking about women being their own worst enemy. Are women their own worst enemy? Well, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after the break, and you will get a chance to know what we think. Welcome back from the break. In case you've just joined us, we are here at the Naguru Skies Hotel enjoying about the most fantastic view in Kampala. You have to be here to actually to experience it, right? Great stuff. Now we're here talking about women being women's worst enemies. Now, Banji, before we went into the break, you alluded to something very interesting, and we'll get back to you because we want to hear from the younger guys. You see, these are the guys who are dealing with the younger women. There's a new crop of women who are coming up. They're all fired up, energized. They're the guys who are giving these young men sleepless nights.
Feminist Nazis.
Yes, feminist Nazis.
They're called Nazis.
Well, no one said I wasn't sleeping. But
I mean, Faisal, the harsh reality is nowadays we are having, there's a stronger women's movement, okay, especially amongst the younger women. Is that affecting the affinity that men have for them?
well, there have been instances now where men are starting to really look at women in a different way, you know. I mean, back then you'd look at a woman, you're like, I can tell her I'm going to pay for this, and she's like, yes. She sees it as something big, you know. I'm going to take her out, and she's like, hey, she sees it as something big. But these days you're going to tell a woman I should pay for this, and she'll tell you I can pay for myself. I can do this for myself, yeah. And there's just this new brand of a very vibrant woman that we didn't grow up seeing. I mean, we grew up seeing our mothers being very submissive. The dad says, it has to be like this, and it has to be like that. It has to be like this, it has to be like that. But you're now in a relationship with a woman who's open-minded. You know, you're telling her, let's do this, and she's like, no, I have my own opinion. I don't want to do that.
But is an opinionated woman a bad thing?
No, it's not a bad thing, but this is what I'm telling you. The scales are shifting. And a guy is going to come and say, you know what, the women of these days are a complete turn-off. Because the women of these days can make their own decisions. Yeah? It's completely different from how we saw our moms and our aunties. Like if I compare the girls I'm dating to...
You're dating multiple girls?
May I ask a question?
Yes, please.
You just told Collins that he does not understand your century is of another century.
Yeah.
So I would want to believe that you're born in a century where women have been given opportunity to study as hard as you have, to be able to earn as much as you have, to be able to negotiate as much as you have.
Yeah.
So if it is the century thing, why would you then now retreat to your mother when it comes to relationship about a girl saying, hey...
He's basically finding a problem managing the girls who are equal to him.
Yes,
that's what I'm saying.
I mean, I was answering the
question. But you see,
what I want to say is, the process, what is happening is, when you have power here, and somebody says, even when at a work relation, we were discussing this picture before, that some bosses actually, when you question them, instead of actually taking attention to the question you have asked, they pay attention to how can you question me.
Yeah.
So if it is a good thing, you imagine you've gone out and she says, I will contribute half, and you contribute half.
Most men don't have
so
a
the
problem
question,
with that.
you would be happy, and he says he has a problem with it.
I said most the problem.
But
the people you reply
my age.
That if you say that we want, for instance, to say your girlfriend, and you say maybe we need to plan and go out or go dancing, and she says, actually I have a different idea.
Yeah.
So the question should be, how do you discuss that idea and make sure it works for both of you?
But of course.
In an ideal situation.
Yeah, I think the problem is more about how we are nurtured or how we are socialized to see certain perspective. So when there has been certain shifts for sure, I think some people find it difficult to be able to cope.
But
So when you say you're closing, are we closing the show? Are we doing parting shots now? We're not.
I think there is
the
a-
backbenchers
there is
shine.
a challenge here.
Yeah.
Because the challenge I see is that there are some women who have been handed a lot of power.
Wait, do you agree?
No.
No, 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 no. Let him finish
No, no.
because he's hitting on something I
There are
wanted
some
to say
women who
before
have
you
been handed a lot
interrupted
of
me.
power. They are educated, they have jobs, they have strong opinions.
Yes.
Okay?
Money, power.
Strong opinions. Yet, the man, I have said this, the man remains prehistoric. Whether he's born in today's generation or yesterday's generation, the man remains prehistoric. So, when his authority is challenged, you know, I have always said, and sometimes we agree with Colin and sometimes we disagree with Chris. There are certain things where democracy does not work.
No one agrees with Chris all the time.
There are certain things where democracy does not work. There are certain situations where a man is not supposed to be questioned, even by the wife.
Like,
The wife is supposed to negotiate for a change in opinion. There are those situations.
Sebo,
Wait. Let me finish my argument. And then there are very many instances, where when the woman opinionated, or who has opinions, if they convince the man that the opinion the man holds is wrong, you know, it's about negotiation, bargaining.
Power.
Okay, so sometimes where I see the challenge is where the woman has been given a lot of power, lacks the negotiation skills to bring the dictatorial man to the
Down.
negotiating table.
And
For me, that's why I see the challenge.
Like a man like you, because you've said that some
so why would you put
situations
the task to
a
the
woman
woman?
cannot
Why
say
wouldn't
no.
you equally say, this dictatorial man has got to learn his character, his personality. He increases his self-awareness to know, for sure, sometimes in this relationship, I come out so strongly, I do not even listen, and then also calm down to be able to meet with this person. Because when you put it on the woman that it is her duty to negotiate, you know, design all the art skills to, and the one you're using to bring the man itself actually is very negative. So somebody says, I will not actually descend, I will also stay here. So sometimes the language...
In fact, the man doesn't even know that he's up there. That's the challenge.
Because that's how they
That's
have
how-
been
So I
raised
want
their
to sort
life.
of add on
So
what
it's-
Banja said. It's the challenge is, by design and by socialization, the man is sort of on a pedestal
Yeah.
as a function of how the society is set up. When the woman gets power and she's now on top, it is people. Have you ever seen people who have got new money? And I like to talk about this. Those people who come and say, in school we used to call it economic temper. The guy comes and says, everyone eat muogo, bao, I am buying. Everyone who's here. When women get access to power and these jobs and all this education, and education is a beautiful thing because it changes the world, it gives access. They don't have, what Banji is trying to say is, they are now in a position where they're slightly superior, where the man remains where he has been for 1,000 years. The onus isn't on the man to negotiate. It's on the woman to create a level playing field.
You know, I want to bring in a bit of a different angle to this this whole thing. First of all, I struggle with the positioning of men as being prehistoric.
Yeah.
Because it's basically saying we as men do not adapt.
But we are pretty much the same.
No, Peter, you're not living in a cave.
It is you, Chris.
Wait,
that's different.
Hey,
That's different.
hey,
But you're
hey.
thinking.
That's different.
can-
And Chris,
Could you allow me to speak?
I always want to remind you one point. You're speaking from a privileged.
Oh!
A privileged
He
point.
went
Yes.
there in the privilege.
So-
You're speaking from a very, very. Because if you say all men are like you, Chris, that is a lie.
No,
But he
wait.
has
The
taken-
feminists
he
would
has
not
taken
exist.
effort to adapt.
Listen.
Go on.
Let me,
Yeah.
for a moment, take you on this. Where does my privilege come from? What are you talking
The
about?
fact that you are not
The fact that where you've grown
No,
up
no.
from.
So
I mean,
because
you've
I'm
grown
not the majority, I'm privileged?
Of
What are you
course,
talking
of
about?
course. That's what privilege is.
So tell me about it. Because I think different
it's
from
not,
you.
it's not
you
about,
think-
the
you
show
think-
is not about Chris.
No, exactly. So I'm just saying that's
Why are you
hogwash. It's
attacking guys from
escaping
another
the point.
generation?
So I don't necessarily think that we are stuck in a moment of time 1,000 years ago and we do not see the reality of what's going on with us and not adapting. In fact, the reason why the dinosaurs are not here is because they failed to adapt, right? So we have seen over time that there's been more empowerment, more exposure to all gender as society has grown. Information age, everyone can access it, etc. Education and all that has sort of created a totally different playing field, okay? And we need to be cognizant of that, right? But now, within that, the angle I wanted to bring up, actually, which has nothing to do with social class or anything, is the fact that, that within our basic wiring, there is a way in which male needs to relate with female, and female needs to relate with male. I think that, at least from a biblical perspective, a recommendation is that men, especially if we're talking about relationships, approach women with love. Because what that does is that I'm looking out for you, I'm taking care of your needs, I'm looking out for your concerns and that kind of thing. So you will find that in a relationship like that, it's much easier for a woman to be submitted to their husband or to their spouse, right? And it's not so much about a power game, but more like, because I feel that the lady feels that they're looked out for, it's much easier for them to follow the leadership of the guy. So it's about, wait, a man setting an environment of love, right? And a woman being able to operate within that environment. Now, Peter, let me finish.
Is
Now,
he trying to
that's
take you to
within-
break?
that-
No, we'll continue.
No, he's not going to take a break. Let me just finish my thought. I'm just about to finish. But now that's in the context of relationship. Very different from the context of the workplace.
The workplace is a relationship.
No way, I know, but not like your wife. You're not working with your wife. All the girls are not your wives. So my point is this, Peter, that the way I relate with my wife is a different relationship with working with a female colleague who is either a peer, a junior, or a senior.
Yeah.
I mean, the world should know, for example, out there that the producer of this show is female. When she says cut, we cut. and she's the boss.
Yes.
I'll tell you what, I agree with you 90%, and I'll tell you why. You see, it goes back then, you are contradicting what Rita was saying, because you are saying that it's up to the man, and that's exactly what Banji was saying. It's up to the man has created his environment. The woman has to fit in it and make it work.
No. That's cross point, Peter. And I you know, you're playing that old trick. No. Peter, you're playing the old trick of putting words in my mouth, and I'm not biting. I said that's not what I said.
Oh, did I hear?
No.
The feminists did not come to play today.
And I'll tell you why.
You're putting words in my mouth. That's
Because
not what
you
I
see,
said. Create an environment of love. He said that when a man is around, he's the guy in authority, and the woman has to play by that
What all
authority.
you people are saying is basically a woman has to just fit in.
No.
And which
In
is
fact,
not the case.
and
Because
which
when
is
you
not the
say
case,
a woman
exactly.
fits in,
Rita.
then that's where you find the complexity comes in.
Rita,
Because
before
the
you-
woman has views.
Exactly.
A woman has ideas,
yes.
has a contribution to make.
She also
So
has
when
that
you
energy.
subject her to fit in,
Contribution.
you imagine
You are
if it is this
contributing
narrow
means
path.
She has her love
She just
circle.
has to. A relationship.
But Rita,
It's
you've
built
just
by
talked
two
about, she said
people.
she's contributing. Contribution means she is adding to
No.
something that is already existing.
So you bring half, I bring half. That's a contribution.
Peter, you're back.
I know.
Don't talk.
No, I'm not.
Avoid
Skip
restating
it.
wrongly what I say.
It's a
I'm not-
takedown. It's a
I'm
takedown.
not
When we are in a relationship, husband and wife, if I say contribution, does it mean a quarter and 3/4? That is your opinion on how you'd want. It's like the half glass, half full, and empty. 50-50 kind of analogy. When I say contribution, I didn't say
Cannot
fraction.
even get
You
a
said
word
she's
in like
contributing to it. Because otherwise, anyway, it's another way. Banji, you were
Someone
saying.
please bring a katawel and we wipe it as it. He said it's sweaty.
Yeah, because I mean,
Peter,
viewers
do like
out
this.
there hear the words correct.
Yes.
Contribution does not mean you bring 50, I bring 50. That is contribution, depending on you
It
know.
depends.
So all I want you to respect is that you cannot start to determine I fit in this wide, this small, or this narrow. A needle eye.
Yeah.
So a relationship is about two people coming together to be able to work out something. So when we discuss, it could be an idea you have brought. I need to listen. If it works, then if I have a different view about it, if I have value to add, then accept it. But when you want to portray men that they should be up there, and in reality, actually, progressive families may not work like that. Because otherwise, you will live in a hell. The examples of the ladies you're talking about. Because we've all, fathers, by the way.
Keep talking to Peter because he's the one who doesn't
Peter.
listen.
No, we need to get into a break. We need to get
No,
into a
before you
break.
go into the break, fathers as girls,
Now that nose
be
is
able
sweaty.
to take charge
Yes.
of our lives, to be able to make good sense of what life is about, how we
I
can
agree.
contribute in all senses.
I agree,
of
but food for
development.
thought.
Yeah.
If that was the case and that was working,
Yeah.
why is the level of divorce on the rise?
I will tell
Think
you
about
why.
it.
Yeah.
Now we're here at the Naguru Skies Hotel talking about women being their own worst enemy. If you're a woman out there
Give
and
that
you
money down.
disagree or agree, go to our Facebook page, like it, engage in the discussion, or we can have this chat on Twitter right now. We'll be right back after the break. Welcome back from the break. In case you have just joined us, we are here at the Naguru Skies Hotel talking about women being their own worst enemy. If you are a woman and you think you're not your own worst enemy, let's have a chat. We're live on Twitter right now and our handles are right at the bottom of your screen. Now, some of you guys are being political and trying to say all the
talked
things.
about
I
divorce.
think Rita has intimidated you, which is fine. These
Nothing.
things happen. But
Be nice for once and listen to reality.
Banji, before we went into the break, I said, all right, so there are all these great things. Okay, women have been empowered and all that stuff. Then why is the rate of divorce going up, yet it should be going down? Your thoughts?
There is a cake on the table. And the man of this cake has always controlled a bigger share, lion's share, either 90%, 75%, 85%. The woman has always had 15%.
The feminists are
But now
going to
the
kill
woman
us.
is trying to, to put her hands on this cake and reduce
The
ratio
lion's
of
share
the woman,
of the
man.
share.
And give the man
like how you
15%.
And give the man
Food, by the way.
15%. And the man doesn't want to hear about that. You know? Because they say if you must shoot, aim your gun at the king, you must shoot without missing. If you miss,
You are finished.
you are finished.
So it's a do or die.
It is a do or die. So, one thing we need to understand is that society is intergenerational. There's the young generation, the middle age, the latter age, and the old age. Okay. Now, each of these generations have different, expectations and beliefs and the way they do things. But we need to understand one serious thing, that most of the learning of us humans is from the people near us, our parents mostly. Our parents, and then the significant others, and then the people we work with.
Modeling.
Yes, modeling, yes. For us who are in urban settings, you can learn beyond your family, from your colleagues, from your friends.
Even in rural.
Yeah, even in rural.
We have all come to the urban
Yes,
by
yes.
the way.
But you find that in rural, the culture tends to be, all the way of life tends to be the same. From this family to the other family to the other family. The cake belongs to the king.
Yeah.
So if the queen tries to put there their hand, it's not
chopped.
acceptable. So
And it's not acceptable because if it can happen in this family, it will spread to the other family, and all kings will lose all the
I don't know,
longer
but,
eat
but,
like
but
dessert.
so they cannot
Banji,
be.
Banji did not state it properly. Yeah? Marriage in itself, I feel like marriage in itself was just designed to put women down. Because, and listen, this is why. Before, you had an institution where like how he said, you create your field of love, and she has to adapt, and she has to obey, and she has, I mean, all these things are in all the holy books. She has to obey, she has to do this, she has to do that. And this is what marriage has been over the time. But you see, right now, things are changing. A woman has opinions, she has views, yeah? And a man has views as well. So you're in a marriage, but the other prehistorical woman who's supposed to obey, this is a different kind of setting now, because she has her views, she has her ideas.
But
Yeah?
guys, why do we think that because a woman has ideas and opinions,
Because men,
it's a problem?
No,
It's
I'll
not
tell,
a
okay,
problem.
I'll tell you. No,
It's not
I'll
a
tell you
problem.
what.
But
Where
I'm talking from a factual point of view, because this is the thing. This is the thing.
Can I
You see
say
what you're
something?
saying?
Can
You
I
see
say
what you're
something?
doing?
Women
Because
to be blunt?
very
Do we
many
expect
men,
women
very
to
many
be
men. No.
non-contributory?
This is
Do
not
we
what.
expect
This is not what we're
women to-
saying. This is
What
not what
is
we
it
are
we
saying.
are
What I'm
expecting?
saying. What I'm saying is, I'm a man, and I know how very many men think. When a man says something, and a woman comes up with a brighter idea, a very superficial, brighter idea, the guy is either going to say, "Oh yeah, you get a new." Oh boy, I know Lugezi
Take your time.
No,
If
tell
the man
what.
is insecure, like
Okay,
Faisal, yes.
okay, can I? Okay, can I?
Most guys, look,
Without the risk of Faisal sitting
Remember
off in a different
when
direction
we
with
were
this.
opening, I said actually the problem
I'm not in
is
this
not
chamber.
that women have ideas. It is how you want to misrepresent and name women's ideas by stereotyping.
Okay, can I say something? I think what Faisal is actually trying to say, if I may bring it into context, is that, and I think it's one of the realities that we have to deal with. To some extent, empowerment has made some women grow horns, okay? And because they have been used to, they now feel like they're empowered and they can do things, which in all honesty has led to a lot of friction, because there are a lot of men, and I'll give you a simple example. Before, when I was growing up, you wouldn't find women in bars, okay? Bars were a thing of the men. Nowadays, women are actually consuming almost as much alcohol as men. Women sit in bars, they drink like men. There's even somewhere I read that where women used to cook like their mothers, nowadays they drink like their fathers. Okay.
Yes.
Now, all this is part of empowerment, because let's be honest, empowerment has both positive and negative connotations. It's not all positive. And if it's not handled in the right way, women can end up destroying their own homes.
And
Now,
the
Peter,
thing I was
instead
saying.
of blaming and putting it on women, that women drink more now,
they
women
do.
spend more time in the bars.
They
Why
do.
don't you handle it as a social problem that Uganda is facing?
But what role
and
are women
say-
playing? Can we then say, now we're going to blame men because women are drinking more?
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. Why then blame women? It's a social
the
No
ones who are
problem.
drinking.
No
It
one,
comes back
no one
from
is blaming
what laws
anyone.
have been put in place
No one is-
to
when
be
I-
able, because this beer is made here.
So
Maybe
we are going to
many
ban
years
women
ago,
from drinking?
this beer was not made here.
Oh, come
So,
on.
We
let me
made beer.
finish.
We made beer since time.
Let me
immemorial.
finish. So that now people who are in positions of responsibility to be able to put up laws to regulate drinking should be able to do that.
So we
but
say
you
women
can't come and
so-
say now
but
women
come on.
drink more. It is
No,
it's
okay,
a women's problem.
Hold on, Chris. And I'd like to get it from your point
Colin.
of view.
yeah.
Has the consumption of
says.
alcohol amongst women gone up?
How
Now,
are you
Peter,
going to ask a guy who doesn't
unfortunately,
drink
there is
alcohol?
no way I would know.
This is the wrong thing.
Look,
Because
I
you're
don't
asking
smoke,
the
but
wrong
I know
person.
more women
No,
smoke
Peter,
than they do.
Peter, here's the thing.
Yeah.
I think that we get ourselves twisted in knots and turns when we somehow want our girl child to be more forthright, more empowered, better at negotiating and making decisions, contributing to leadership and being a solution to the problems that we have in our society, on one hand. And then on the other hand, we say when she's like that, it's a problem. I think that we cannot eat our cake and have it back. Right? We've got to decide which one of those two things we are having. And I think one of the things and we've mentioned it before in the recent past year on this show, is that we need to learn how to influence powerful people. Right? So in most African countries, I'm going to assume Uganda is the exception. In most African countries, the leaders want to keep the majority of the people poor. Why? Because poor people are easier to lead
Manage,
and manage.
Yes.
Because if they don't have the wherewithal to be able to force their agenda, you know, they keep voting for you because they're poor, they have no options. But once people start making money and they're as educated as the Libyans, then you, Muammar Gaddafi, you got them out of their poverty and their ignorance. They get to a point and they start asking you questions and say, why do you lead us this way?
Which is not bad.
And because they ask you those questions and you still think you're leading people who are less empowered, they kick you out. You call them rats and then they kill you. Okay? Now, what's going on right now?
Is that husbands are like Muammar Gaddafi?
Yes.
Yeah, so what's going
So
on?
he has veered back to my point.
Listen to
Thank
what I'm
you.
saying. I'm not on your point, I'm on a point.
Which is Piper's.
National TV.
So what I am saying is that we need to be cognizant of the fact that the girl child of 2018 is different from the girl child of 1920.
Yep.
True.
And
Okay?
1990.
Now,
is
because the
Uganda.
girl child of 2018 knows as much as you do, because she can read, she can write, and she can actually be able to use other tools of power like you have, like money and things like that, the influence then that you are going to have over this girl child, if it's about a spouse, has got to be different. So instead of using tools of coercion, you've got to be using tools of persuasion. And that's where the game has changed. Now, there is no woman. This lady here, madam, could you please show us your left hand? You look like you're married, right?
Yeah, I am.
How long have you been married?
Oh, 17 years.
17 years. Some guy has kept this lady that is taking all these guys on, married to him for 17 years. There's
Are
something
you
he
sure it's the
knows.
same guy?
He has a
Right?
secret. He
There's something
accepted
he
his
knows,
suffering.
all right? And she seems to be happily married.
sure?
Yeah, over the
Are you
moon.
sure it's
Yeah.
the same guy?
Yeah. So the thing is, listen guys, the thing is that as men, we need to learn that our leadership should come from a place of persuasion. And that's where I was saying that especially if you're in a marital relationship, it's love. Because love is persuasive, it's not coercive.
Chris, just hold on right there. Are you trying to say, and
Just
I
a
want
minute.
to ask you
Peter.
from a biblical point of
Yes,
view.
sir.
Are you trying to say that
Love solves
in
everything.
every single thing, and I'd not like you to tell us as you, that in every single thing you do in your home, you do not take a stand, you have to negotiate everything with your wife?
Peter,
That's a yes or no question.
thank you for asking me the question. So here is my answer. So what happens is when I speak about love,
You're diverse.
no, Peter, do you want an answer
Okay,
from
all
me?
right, all right, all right. Okay.
Okay, so
So
here's my
obviously, this
answer.
whole segment is about Chris. But
No, he's asked me a question, so I must give him an answer, don't you think? Okay, so the thing is that because it's about love, love is kind, it's patient, it's long-suffering, and all that stuff. So there's things that are going to happen that you put up with. There's things that happen whether, you know, so you're not always, it's not always going your way, all right? But what happens is that there is respect enough in our home where at some point I need to make a final call, right? I'm still the husband in the home, okay? But I don't arrive at that point banging tables and saying, look, because I am the man in the house, I have said. That's not the scenario.
Okay.
You bring her along. You sell what you
So
sell.
there are times when you just take a decision and you'll inform your
By the
wife.
way, either way, there are times when even women will make a decision.
Exactly.
And
So it's
says-
not always a
and
negotiation.
actually
It's not always
You know
a
what I'm
negotiation
saying?
like he's saying.
I don't know why, Peter, you're full of negativity.
Oh!
Yes, let me tell you why.
Okay, now that's why you have to start your
No,
parting
let me
shot.
tell you. when
He's using
you,
his
for sure,
tools of
let's say
power.
we are at a peaceful
Coercion.
table
Yes.
negotiating. It is ideally you come way and you come to a consensus. But there are times really when you accept the facts and don't call it like you have won me, I have lost. And then
It's
you come
never
to term and
competition.
say, exactly, because it's a relationship. You are getting the best thing out of a thief of these ideas. And then you say, I think you recognize that this time my wife has the idea
All right.
is
No,
what I would go with.
I agree with you 100%.
But because you want to use
no,
a language that promotes
No, I'll tell you what,
negativity.
I agree with you 100%. However, what you're saying is textbook stuff.
No,
but,
it is reality.
But unfortunately, we're at that point when we
It
have to wrap
is.
up the show. Okay, thank you very much for that. Colin, your parting shot.
My feet look so shiny. Because my feet are swinging like a little child.
Little boy.
It's important for me to sort of say that this show was triggered by a response at a certain conference somewhere about the representation of women in the media. And I feel like sort of the feminist discussion is like a virus, like a cancer that must get into everything. And in sort of having this discussion, we talked about it, and my feelings were, there is entire stations dedicated to women's voices and platforms. There are TV stations, there are radio stations, there are entire sections of newspapers, magazines, a whole cross-section of media. But still, somewhere in a certain conference, someone stood up and said, on shows like NTV MEN, women are not properly represented. So you find that even in a show that's, 2% of media airtime, there's still a need for sort of that feminist representation to come on and be there and be present. And I understand that. And even though some days that doesn't come out, I think that certain spaces need to be protected. They need to be preserved. And we will fight to protect those spaces. It doesn't mean that we will not be good, loving husbands, or that we will not be good colleagues, as Chris says. But we are aware, I am consciously aware every day, that because all men are not equal, there are some guys who are out there like sheep. They're still caught in that prehistoric thinking. And some of us have to fight to ensure that we drag them out there before the feminist machine crushes them.
Chris, your party shot, and you thought he was on your side.
Yeah,
So emotional.
I mean, Colin it just sounds like he's feeling claustrophobic, like
He's crying.
all the air is being squeezed out of him. But anyway, two things. One is, it's very clear that in a home, the husband or man is the leader. And I don't think that that's being contested. I think that what's being contested is how we lead. And I think that if we carry on thinking that we're going to lead by coercion, we are going to have a bloody nose every single time. The leadership style has got to change. We've got to lead by persuasion. In the Bible, there are only two persons that are called helper. The first is God the Holy Spirit. And if you have heard about him and have worked with him a little bit, you would know that he's really some good help. But the other is woman, wife. Two helpers. The last time I checked, if you need help from a more superior person in some way.
You are on the other side. You're
No,
such a
listen to
snitch.
this, my parting shot. Hey, dude.
Wow.
Okay. Wow. All right.
This is
So
some
if you need help, you need help from someone who's superior in something. Whereas men may be stronger in casting vision, leading the way, most of the time you'll find that their women are better at the detail of what goes on around you to get you there. So the thing is that it's got to be partnership.
Now,
Ventures.
I want to make 3 quick points. One, the belief that all empowered women will positively contribute to the welfare of the family is a fallacy. Actually, others will destabilize the family.
A what?
This is a fact. Others will destabilize the family. So we have to be very, very careful. She's educated, she has a powerful job, she's running a very serious business, but at the same time, she's a destabilizing force. This is true for women. At the same time, it is also true for men. Men are not exception to this disease. So we need to be aware of this. Okay, that's why, again, if I quote from Chris's world, that a man who finds a good wife
Finds a good thing.
finds a
And
good
gains
thing.
favor in the sight of
Yes.
God.
Keyword here
Because
is a
some
good
people
wife,
find
not
it-
just a wife.
So sometimes this empowered woman may not be actually that good. Two, that in life there is a reaction to everything. I will not use physics. I will use biology. It is either a fight or flight. When you are faced with a situation, you either fight it or you run away from it. Now, you mentioned the issue of divorce because of empowerment. Some men have learned these days that it's better for them to divorce. Historically, it was the woman to be chased from the house. These days, men pack their bags and walk. You think the guy has gone to office 2 months, 3 months, he has never returned.
Ghost.
So they shift, they disappear. Now, there are those who fight, because it is flight or fight. There are those who fight, and those who are fighting are still defending their cake. They don't want it to go. However, one thing we need to understand is that the women movement, like maybe in Uganda, it has a short history, maybe of 40 years.
No.
Or maybe 60. Or maybe
over
100.
100 years.
100. But 100 is short, because for the other centuries, the man has been on top. So give him time to adjust. Don't think he's not adjusting. He's adjusting. But he's not yet there.
This is what I'm going to say. Number one, things are changing, but for some reason, you people want them to stay the same. You know, women are getting empowered, but you're complaining that, you know what, the rates of, you know, divorce are going up. Of course, they have to go up because the women are now empowered. They are now alive. They've opened their eyes. They've seen that you've been cheating them for how many years?
Very many years.
Very many years.
Great stuff. Guys, just as we wrap up, I just want to throw one simple thing.
No? Close the show.
Yes, we're closing the show. I mean, women have been empowered. Great stuff. Society's going, I mean, we're seeing a lot of this stuff coming up. Yes. But, you know, we have a gap at home. Women traditionally used to hold the home together. They're the ones who used to raise the children. Now we have the other show we're talking about having some useless guys, kids who can't inherit anything from their parents because they're useless guys. Is that a product of all this women empowerment? Don't answer it. We are here at the Naguru Skies Hotel, and we've been talking about women being their own worst enemy.
Take it to the men.
We've had a great night. There's been a lot to talk about. Hope you have too. As I always say, make sure you take good care of yourselves. Have a good night, and God bless.